Hello guys, welcome to ETHIO Blend. This is Solomon. Today I will show you how to create a simple and realistic Jerrycan in Blender. Stay tuned until then. And don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. First, open Blender. Hold the Shift key to select the light and the camera. Then press X to delete them for now. We only need a cube. Pressing 1 to go to the front view. Then press N to open the properties panel on the right. To import your reference image, check the background image option and click Add Image to import your reference image from the appropriate folder. I will provide a link to my previous work in the description, which you can use as reference. Change the view from all views to front and move the image to the right and click Add Image. Add the same image again and press 3 to go to the right side view. Change the view to the right and move the image to the left. Here you can adjust the image opacity. Press 1 to return to front view. Then press Z to switch from solid to wireframe mode. Enter edit mode and increase the image opacity for better visibility. Press Ctrl R to add a loop cut along the X-axis. Switch to the side view by pressing 3. Then select vertices using B and drag to select. Press X to delete the selected vertices. Close the Properties panel by pressing A. Navigate to the Modifier sections and add a mirror modifier along the Y-axis and check the X-axis option. Enable clipping to merge the vertices. Return to front view by pressing 1. Press B to select the top vertices and move them along the Z-axis. Again, press B to select other vertices and move them in the Z direction. Don't worry about perfection yet, just establish the basic shape. Press B to select some vertices and move them in the X-axis. Repeat this for another set of vertices. Press B to select the top vertices and then extrude them with E along the Z-axis and scale with S. Extrude again along the Z-axis. Next, press B to select the bottom vertices. Extrude with E in the Z direction. Then scale with S. Extrude with E in the Z direction. And scale it along the X-axis by pressing S. Press Ctrl R to add a loop and scale it along the X-axis by pressing S. Move it slightly by pressing G. Add another loop with Ctrl R and scale in the X-axis. To refine the shape, switch to the side view by pressing 3. Press B to select and move vertices in the Y-axis. For inclination, go to front view by pressing 1 and press B to select. Select the last vertices or edge. Change the pivot point to active element. Then unselect the middle vertices. Rotate them with R along the X-axis by -25 degrees. Continue shaping. By pressing 1, return to front view. and moving certain vertices along the x-axis. Press B again to make the additional adjustments. Add a loop with Ctrl R and move it. To straighten the loop, scale it along the x-axis with S and hit 0. Change from vertex to face mode, select the top face, and extrude by pressing E in the Z axis. Move it upward, and scale in the x-axis. Select the face and press X to delete it. Switch to solid mode by pressing Z. Now we have defined the shape. Press 3 to switch to side view and correct the angle. Switch to wireframe mode and press B to select the vertices. Move the vertices along the y-axis. After completing this, switch to solid mode by pressing Z. Now we have the basic shape. Go to the Modifier tab and add a Subdivision modifier, setting it to level 2. We are much closer to the desired shape now. Then press Z to switch from solid to wireframe mode. Turn off Adjust Edit in the Subdivision properties for better visibility. Select and move the vertices. Press Ctrl R to add a loop and adjust the shape by moving selected vertices. Add another loop with Ctrl R and move it upward. Then add one more loop with Ctrl R to define the edge. We need to add a loop here by pressing Ctrl R and moving it downward. Switch back to solid mode by pressing Z. Now we have a more defined shape. Again, switch to wireframe mode by pressing Z. Go to edit mode. Here we need to add 3 loops. By pressing Ctrl R, add 3 loops. Add 1 loop by pressing Ctrl R again. Select a vertex and delete it by pressing X key. Select the loop with Alt and scale along the Z axis using S. Select 2 vertices and scale along the X axis with S. Now we are on the right track. Press 3 on the number pad to view from the side. Then use B to select and move the vertices along the y-axis. Once here, let's refine the bottom. Switch back to solid mode by pressing Z. Select the middle vertices and delete them with X. Select the loop with Alt, extrude using E, and scale with S. Scale in the y-axis to equalize. Extrude again with E, and move downward in the Z-axis. Extrude using E, and scale with S. Scale in the y-axis to equalize. Repeat extruding and scaling to maintain equality. Finally, press F to fill the hole. Switch to solid mode by pressing Z. Enter edit mode. Next, close the bridge by selecting the loop with Alt. Then extruding in the y-axis by pressing E. Repeat the extrusion in the y-axis until they merge. Switch to solid mode by pressing Z. Increase the subdivision to better define the shape. Then shade smooth. Go into edit mode and switch to wireframe. Select the loop with Alt. Then use B to select and move the vertices along the y-axis. Switch to solid mode by pressing Z. Now we have a more defined shape. Again, switch to wireframe mode by pressing Z. Select the loop with Alt and scale along the Z-axis. Select the loop with Alt and scale in the y-axis to equalize. Scale in the y-axis to equalize. Repeat extruding in the y-axis until they merge. Switch to solid mode by pressing Z. Increase the subdivision to better define the shape. Then shade smooth. Go into edit mode and switch to wireframe. Select the loop with Alt. Extrude with E and scale with S. Switch back to solid mode. Press E to extrude again and scale with S. Press W, go to Loop Tools and select Circle. When scaling, the circle changes. To fix this, switch to solid mode, apply the mirror modifier. Press 1 to switch to the front view and wireframe. Extrude with E along the Z axis. Press E to extrude again and scale slightly with S. Extrude in the Z axis with E once more. Select the loop with Alt. Then duplicate with Shift D. Slightly scale with S to 1.05 and move the selected vertices in the Z axis. Extrude in the Z axis with E. Press Ctrl plus to increase selection, then press P to separate the selected, renaming to Cap Support. Rename the main object to Jerrycan. Now go to Edit mode. Select the top loop with Alt. Duplicate with Shift D and scale it with S. Extrude in the Z axis with E. Don't worry about the difference between the model and the image. Add a loop with Ctrl R and move it upward in the Z axis. Then add another loop with Ctrl R and move it downward. Switch to solid mode. Increase the selection with Ctrl plus and then press P to separate the selected parts. We can call this cap. As you can see, many edges present. Decrease the subdivision to 1. Go to front view by pressing 1 and switch to wireframe. Apply the subdivision. Then switch to Edit mode and Solid mode. Select the loop with Alt. Extrude by pressing E and scale with S. Repeat the extrude and scale process. Then press Ctrl F and select Grid Fill. Change the span to 3 in the left Properties panel. Then switch to Object mode. Go to the Modifier tab and add a Subdivision modifier. As you can see, there are two types of colors, so we have to fix it. Switch to Edit mode, select all with A and flip the normals using Ctrl N. Return to Object mode. Then add the Solidify modifier one by one. Select all again with A and flip the normals with Ctrl N. In the Modifier tab, add a Solidify modifier. Then hide the cap for better visibility. Set the thickness to 0.012 or adjust as needed and make it shade smooth. And hide the cap. Switch to Edit mode and move the selected loop closer on the Z axis. Hold Shift Alt to select both loops, then extrude with E and scale with S. Select one loop with Alt and move it down on the Z axis to sharpen the edge. Remove the unnecessary middle loop by switching to Edge Selection and selecting the edge. To select all edges of the same length, use the Select tab and choose Select Similar. Then select the length or the hotkey. Press Shift G. The edges of equal lengths are selected. Press Ctrl P to bevel the edge. Change the pivot point to individual origin and extrude around its axis by pressing E. Switch to object mode. Since there are no defined edges, make it shade smooth. Go back to edit mode. Add loop cuts with Ctrl R. Then move upward in the Z-axis. And add another loop by pressing Ctrl R. Then move downward in the Z-axis. Now we have better defined shape. Hide all models except the cap by pressing H. In the Modifier tab, add a Solidify modifier for the cap. And leave the thickness unchanged. Hide the cap by pressing H and unhide the Jerrycan. Adding another Solidify modifier with the same thickness. Now we have completed the model. Press Shift A and add a plane. Switch to edit mode and scale it with S. Select the model while holding Shift. Then move it upward on the Z-axis. Switch to edit mode, then select the edge. Extrude with E on the Z-axis. And bevel the middle edge with Ctrl B, adding segments as desired. Make it shade smooth. Then press 1 for front view again. Add a camera with Shift A. Switch to top view by pressing 7 and move it along the Y-axis. Adjust the camera property. Set the focal length between 100 up to 110. Switch to camera view by pressing 0. And adjust the camera's Z and Y positions using G or transformation properties. Change resolution in the scene properties to 1080 by 1080. The camera property and check center in composition guides to ensure the model centering. Before we go to the lighting, split the window and hide the left properties panel by pressing T. Change render from Blender render to cycles and switch to render view. The environment light appears gray. So go to world properties and set strength to 0. Now the environment light turns to black. Add an area light by pressing Shift A, moving it on the Z-axis and rotating it on the Y-axis by pressing R, minus 90 degrees. Move it left on the X-axis. Then adjust the light properties. Change the shape from square to rectangle, setting X size to 1, Y size to 1. Then adjust X size to 2. Duplicate the light by pressing Shift D. Move it right on the X-axis. And view from the top by pressing 7. Rotate it 180 degrees on the Z-axis. And set light strength to 150. Duplicate the light again by pressing Shift D. Use Shift S to snap selection to cursor. And move it forward on the Y-axis. Rotate on the Z-axis by pressing R, 90 degrees. This is the main light, so increase its strength to 250 or adjusting down to 200 as needed. As you can see above, it has created a shadow because it doesn't get any light. So add another area light to eliminate shadows by pressing Shift A. By going to front view by pressing 1, leave the square and change size to 5 for diffused lighting and adjust strength to 250. The size is too much, so change size to 2. Scale the lights with S to cover the object completely. Now as you can see, the previous shadow has completely disappeared. For materials, switch the 3D viewport to the node editor. select the Jerrycan. Go to the material properties and click new material. Instead of rendering the whole model, let's select some render area by pressing Ctrl B. Change material properties from diffuse to principled BSDF. To change the base color, use the hex code I used. For the Jerrycan hex code E75D1B. It's orange color. Change the roughness to 0.4 and leave the rest as it is. Now select the cap support. Click the plus icon, then select new material. Then change from diffuse to principled BSDF. The color is red and hex code I used is E70300. The color is not changing, so go to edit mode and switch to solid mode, then assign the material. Again, go back to render view and switch to object mode. Also change the roughness to 0.4 and leave the rest. Select the cap and assign the red material. Now we have completed our model material. Select the background plane, go to Material tab, then select New. Change the diffuse to principled BSDF. Change the specular value to 0 and so change the roughness to 0.5. The hex code for the base color is 26BDA8. This is the final render. I hope this tutorial is helpful, so if you like the video, please hit the like button, and if you are new, please subscribe to this channel and join our family. Until we meet again, bye bye.